AITA for asking my boyfriend to say hi to my dead mom? I am not the original poster. That is you, responsible, Donut219. He posted in r, am I the asshole? Trigger warning. Terminal illness mention. Less than. Mood spoiler. Happy ending. Less than. Original post. December 23, 2023. Throwaway since BF knows my other account. Context. Mom. 50 at the time. Died a year ago to numerous health issues. We have her cremated and up on our mantle above the fireplace. So my M20 new boyfriend, M23, of 3 months came over to my house for the first time to spend the night, and to get to my bedroom you have to walk through the living room, which has the mantle. As we passed by it I say hi to my mom, by force of habit since it's a thing with my friends. Where when they'd come over they'd either find my mom to say hi or I'd go say hi to my mom. And that didn't stop after she died. It just stuck and they'd go, hey OP's mom. Single quote dot. So I say that to him and he stops walking and looks around. We're completely home alone and the living room doesn't have the lights on so he doesn't see her urn immediately. I laugh and point to the urn and just start walking again, but he stops me and looks at me with a half concerned, half annoyed expression. I ask what's wrong and he annoyedly asks, why would you tell me to say hi to her? Why wouldn't you tell me she's dead before this? And I was puzzled. The topic of her death never came up in the last few months of us dating. Plus we'd only known each other for a few months before dating and never got super close. So I didn't think of mentioning it and I didn't think it was a big deal, so I told him that. He said I am an asshole for springing my mom's death on him, then laughing about it. I only chuckled because I thought it was silly he actually looked around for her. I wasn't laughing at her death. I don't know if I am the asshole, but maybe it wasn't the best way to tell him about her death. But if the lights were on he absolutely would have seen the urn as it's decorated and had fairy lights that we turn on at night. So I think since he was supposed to spend the night he would have seen it when he got up for water or something. He didn't end up spending the night and left shortly after. This was yesterday and he texted me good morning today but hasn't texted otherwise. AITA? Relevant comments. Oop clarifies on this tradition with his friends. Truthfully, I'm not expecting him, or anyone honestly, to keep up with the tradition in any way. I honestly don't invite many people who aren't my friends over, so it was just in my brain from what me and my friends do. I do feel bad for blindsiding him, but I didn't expect such a reaction. On why Oop didn't tell him earlier, more on mom. Exactly. My mother has been sick her whole life and my whole life with an incurable disease. And as a child I got so used to explaining exactly what was, how it works and all of that. It's exhausting saying, yeah my mom has, and seeing everyone go pity mode and try to coddle me, when it didn't affect me as badly as most assume it would. And to answer the last part, neither of us have delved into our familial lives. I know he has a sister and that's really it. I just assume if someone doesn't bring something up I don't need to ask about it and it'll be brought up when or if they want to. I'm now learning that is not how people normally act. Certain topics really just don't come up in conversations. Not just with him but in general. With me. When the year mark happened, in August, we weren't dating. Merely both in the same courses in school, so I didn't go to him about it but to my friends, so it never came up. You trust this guy enough to be intimate with him but not tell him about your mom? Strangely enough, this is about the 5th comment I've seen making assumptions on our sex life. Weirdly enough, I guess to the Reddit community I am not super brazen about the topic of sex. Like I apparently am with death. So we're just exclusive. Not intimate yet. Plus finals has sort of killed any of our energy to do anything but study. I'm reading comments and they're all going back and forth. But I am understanding others react to death way differently than I anticipated, so I am understanding why he could have reacted how he did. Info. Check in with your mom to see if she was offended. Checked in with her over brunch and she said she wasn't. I think we're in the clear. Update. Same post. Jesus Christ, this has gotten way more attention than I thought it would. Let me clarify a few things. Also, there's a further update on my page. Another clarification, since everyone is assuming I invited him over for sex. The spend the night request was not based sexually. I'm home alone for 2 days due to other familial reasons, and I am a generally anxious guy, so I wanted someone home with me. And my friends are out of town for holidays, so I invited my boyfriend over since he doesn't celebrate Christmas and had no plans. 1. I am not expecting him or anyone else who comes into my house to say hi to her. FFS, even my own siblings don't do this. It's literally just something between me and my friends. Point 2. When I said, I laughed because I thought it was silly he looked for her. I didn't mean I thought it was funny. I guess my wording was just off. I thought since we were about 4 feet from the urn he'd see it in his peripheral view. And another thing is, people think I was mad about his reaction. I wasn't, I was just confused. Point 3. FYI, I am a guy. I have no idea why everyone thinks I am a girl, despite the fact I've had 20 meters in the first few lines of the post since I posted it last night. And also, being gay has nothing to do with this. In our area, nearly everyone is accepting of LGBT+, so it's assumed our parents are as well. So therefore the topic of parents, family accepting hasn't come up. I've yet to meet his parents as well. Point 4. And when I say, certain topics never come up, I mean it. I'm sure the other comment I made is buried by now, but my mom was the first death I've ever experienced in my family. Sounds strange, I know. My family isn't big, and really the only people who have died did so when I was 5, so it's not in my memory. And I don't really talk about my family life all that much to anyone. Not because I am hiding it, I just rather focus on other topics. Even one of my closest friends didn't know about my mom remarrying until I posted about getting a suit for it. Oop is voted YTA because of the top comment. But there were a fair few NA and NTAs. Update post. December 24th, 2023. Next day. Honestly not sure anyone will see this as I can't post to the main sub, but here's an update in case anyone decides to check my account. Good lord. That post went insane in the comments. And it just got too long for me to feel like anyone would read an update. I had a long talk with my BF. I showed him the thread and we read through it together. He felt bad that I was so conflicted about how I felt, then got berated by many on the internet. Even though around 90% of the comments were nah, lots of the yeah were weirdly personal attacks. He said he also asked some friends about everything that happened, so he understands why I posted into the void for advice. I did think about going to my friends, but if we ended up resolving this, I didn't want their opinions of him to change. Long story short, he was initially incredibly taken off guard by my brazenness, which, as a commenter said I should mention, really only happened because I feel comfortable with him to joke around, and I also cope with humor. And this was just a part of my routine. If it was anyone else, like someone from our school for instance, I wouldn't have said anything as we walked by, but he's becoming part of my routine, so it just happened habitually. He's allowed me to share this, but he isn't incredibly close with his family, so he would assume someone so close to me's death wouldn't be such an easy topic to talk about. But since my mom was sick for my whole life, I knew her death was inevitable, but in the beginning of her getting really sick I had anticipatory grief, so I grieved hard when she was her sickest, and less so, but still incredibly hard, when she actually died. So I've dealt with her death and coped for months prior to getting close and dating him, so I didn't Need that support from him. Which he's let me know he wishes I did. He also apologized for calling me an asshole. I told him it hurt but still forgive him since in his eyes it felt disrespectful to my mom to joke. But he now understands that's how my family copes. And even if that isn't how he personally would cope, he shouldn't have gotten upset with me. His parents are both alive and well, he just doesn't have contact with them. So like many commenters said, family is a sore spot and I learned the reasons why. He's come back to my house and we've been enjoying our night together after our talk. And he did eventually say hi to my mom and even apologize to her for being rude in front of her. I did tell him he doesn't need to say hi or anything to her, but he insisted since he felt like an asshole. Especially after talking with his friends, and while they agreed he was blind-sided, this would have just been resolved if we'd had a chat about it instead of him getting defensive. And if anyone was wondering, he didn't text me all day because he was 1. in courses and 2. trying to figure out how to start this conversation with me. But eventually, once I knew his classes ended, I was the one who texted asking to talk. So we have resolved our issue. He no longer thinks I'm an asshole. Even if Reddit does. I never thought he was one, just that his reaction was incredibly unexpected, but I understand now. Of course, miscommunication happens to all of us every now and again. Man shrugging, medium skin tone. Info. Check in with your mom to see if she was offended. Checked in with her over brunch and she said she wasn't. I think we're in the clear. I mean, that's one way to get a second opinion. Tears of joy. As always, communication saves the day. There were never any assholes here. Just a misunderstanding from two very different but each totally valid points of view. I'm glad they talked it out. And it's sweet he took up the habit of saying hi. I have my dad's ashes in a ring and a necklace. The necklace is something I got years and years ago. Wore it every day. The number of people that would lunge for my necklace. And oh my god, it's so pretty. Where'd you get it? And then fling it. While on my neck. When I explained it had my dad's remains in it. Was beyond the pale. They'd get so angry at me for not warning them. But like, maybe don't snatch at jewelry someone is actively wearing? I use humor to cope with his death. Once I moved forward in my grief. I've told people in the know, say hi to my dad. And then wiggled the necklace. Lol. One of my first video chats with my husband years ago, he asked if I wanted to meet his dog. I got all excited because yes dog, hell yay. Dude held up a small box. Meet Ben. That's when I knew I was going to marry that man. Good to see communication saves the day. Jesus. AITA users really can be insane. There are no assholes here since I all see is just misunderstanding and different point of views. Without any harm or bad things happening. AITA users really feel like angry edgelords. He did eventually say hi to my mom and even apologize to her for being rude in front of her. This is cute. I don't think Oop did anything wrong. People have their own ways of dealing with grief and death. And for some people, it's humor. Sounds like the boyfriend was just taken back and reacted more strongly, less patiently than he might have otherwise. And ultimately made amends for it. AITA users react reasonably and calmly. Challenge, impossible. I was fully prepared for some kind of freaky ghost story based on the title. Liked how Op refers to Reddit as posting into the void for advice. This is a lovely story. I love the brazen act of it. Just love it. But are some Reddit users so desperate to judge on intimacy when it's barely talked about? Or just lacking of their own in any form? Shrug. A good chance most of those judging would say YTA. Honestly, I lost my mom a few years ago and I have her ashes around my neck most of the time, so I tend to joke with my friends about it and be like, "Wanna say hi to my mom?" It's a coping thing and also just funny thing to do sometimes. But I do sometimes get a few looks from people when I joke about it. Humor as a coping method can make people confused, I guess, lol. But I'm happy everything worked out for you. Also tell you mom I said hi if that's okay, lol. I genuinely don't get the YTA comments. Has no one ever had a brain fart? Every time someone coughs in my family, somebody else says a sympathetic, "Ah, cough cough," in answer. And every once in a while I'll absent-mindedly say, "Ah, cough cough," to my coworkers. Where is this land where nearly everyone is accepting of LGBT+ to think PPL assume parents are accepting? I wanna go. This post made me sad. I don't have my mom's urn anymore. She would have loved if I did this, lol. This post reminds me of helping a friend move years ago, and they got into an argument with their sibling about who was going to take care of mom and who was going to responsible for her now. I was standing there wondering if they were keeping their mom locked up in the attic. Come to find out they were arguing over her urn. When my dad had his massive heart failure and ended up in ICU, I was coming into work and my boss asked how my dad was doing. My boss had heard from my friends that my dad was in the hospital. Yeah, he is in a coma and they don't expect him to survive. My boss had that look on his face, but I just couldn't explain even though the doctors were telling us to come by and say goodbye. I knew that my dad would make it. After my dad got better, I was talking about this with him and my brother. And my brother said that he had had the same feeling dad was going to survive. We did have 17 extra years with dad. So I guess we won time with him, but those 17 years were often tough, especially the last 4 years of his life when he got sick again. When your whole life has revolved around keeping someone alive and well, you are suddenly lost when that person passes away. What is your purpose now? I understand op. My mother had a slew of health problems. MS. Most of her life. And dark humor was the only way I could cope even after her passing in 2020, so I get where op is coming from. My best friend then lost his mom a year after I did. He has some of her remains in a tiny urn. You almost miss it. On display. I've said hi to her in passing if I'm over. We all have different ways to cope. When my sister and I went to deliver dad's urn to the church he was to be buried at, she shook the urn and joked about dad's bones rattling about. I was very put off at the time. My niece was there, but love to remind her of this now. She's repressed the memory. It wasn't until I lost my first human loved one that I understood how you can be full of love while grieving. My dad still makes me happy, so joking about him can be easy. There were no assholes here ever, and while most people were apparently not NTA, the people saying YTA were just weird and possibly misogynistic. My dog, best friend, soulmate, love of my life died and I was bereft, like, utterly inconsolable. I rescheduled a date I had pre-planned and the guy seemed very understanding at first, but then later told me my grief was too much, and he was no longer interested. Even though I hadn't been divulging much of it to him as I knew it was a mood killer. I deleted all dating apps for a while, reinstalled one and wanted to delete it immediately, but something told me to wait just 1 week. About 56 days later I matched with an amazing guy. I was upfront about my ongoing grief and he was nothing but understanding and amazing. He came with me to scatter her ashes on the beach. We're moving in together hopefully by the end of the month and going to Disneyland in February. Heart.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.